Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast here. Hopefully, everyone's having a great week. Happy Thursday. We're getting closer to Christmas. Again, safe place. You guys can say whatever you like. I'll try to keep up with the comments with everything. Hey, what's going on? CC, Samantha Smith, what's going on? Stephanie, Lou, Carl. I'll try to keep up as much as possible. We got a great lineup right quick today. We're going to cover some stuff really quick about everyone's favorite person that I've been covering for a while, the former Grantville City committee members, Charles and Taylor Phillips. And then also we have a special guest on, like I said, today for the retired police officer out of, I believe it's Huntington Beach. He'll probably correct me on that in just a minute. California, and covered some high profile cases out there. We're going to go over that a little bit. And, but first I'm going to bring him up and let him introduce himself. And then from there, we'll go from there. We'll just move forward from there. It's going to be a fun hour. We're going to keep it to right at about an hour. Again, much love, everybody. And this is Mr. Royce. I'm going to bring him up now. Can you hear us?
Hello. Hi, Russ. How you doing?
Good. All right, so I'm sure you probably heard already. Yeah, just introduce yourself. You want to give a quick synopsis of everything, what you've done, and then the three cases that you'll cover here in a little bit, and something that you worked on in the past, and then some basic First Amendment stuff. And then before we kick that off, we'll touch into some of the Grantville stuff.
No, absolutely. I started off at the Sheriff's Department in California. Then I worked for the Huntington Beach Police Department, where I retired. Then I went to the Los Angeles County Superior Court as a sub-contract investigator, where we were assigned cases by a Superior Court judge. During that time, my workload was pretty extensive as a defense investigator. I worked on I think it was 456 homicide cases, 39 death penalty cases, and then 3 different serial murder cases. I've testified as an expert witness in California State Court, United States Federal Court as a human trafficking expert. But today I know we want to talk about the 2 serial murder cases, and along with Suge Knight, which I worked as a defense investigator on all 3 of those.
Awesome. So we'll cover really quick. Just I know some lawsuits have been filed against some former committee members, and I know you filed one, and I filed one against the spouse Taylor. And I'm going to let and then any of the mods, Stephanie, if you could. I'm going to share my screen with the GT News now and just pull that up, pull the article up, and then whatever you want to touch on, Mr. Royce, of the RICO Act or anything that you want to talk about that's in your lawsuit there. So let me pull that up for everybody so everybody will know how to get to it. There we go. So we have everybody should be familiar with the GT News Now website. This particular one that we're talking about is going to be under GT exclusive, and then Grantville business facing civil racketeering lawsuit. And then in here, let's throw this up as well here. That way everybody can see it. And if you go towards the bottom under the files, you'll be able to download and see a copy of the full complaint. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Royce with the complaint that he filed for his findings and what he's found and stuff that he can share. And if anybody has any questions, I'll throw the questions up and then he can answer them however accordingly. It's all yours, man. Go ahead. Are you muted? There we go. I think he's coming back in.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, could you hear what I said?
No, I cannot.
Okay, I showed everybody how to get here, and then if you can talk about your suit against Mr. Phillips as far as the libel and the RICO and everything that's in here, and then whatever you can talk about. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to throw them up, and you can answer them accordingly, but it's all yours.
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Russ?
Yes. Can everybody hear?
Okay. All right, so let me go back a little bit further here, a little bit more about my bio. I'm also and have been a licensed private investigator in California, Arizona, Georgia, and Alabama. And during the course of this, I've helped Russ with a lot of research and finding things to help him get along, and also at least another auditor. I myself, unfortunately, moved from California to Grantville, Georgia, which I had no idea what I was stepping into. And at that time, to make a long story short, I had to file a civil rights lawsuit against the police department for trying to indict me for too many open records acts and exposing the police department acting badly. That lawsuit subsequently settled. I think it was March of this year. So I continued with my my civic duty of exposing what's going on in Grantville, which includes different public officials and employees. I actually ran into Russ. It was after he did his first video on Grantville. A third party kind of introduced us, and that's how I met Russ. I think it was in March of 2022, Russ, or 2023.
It was one of those. It was 2022 or 2020. It was one of those.
So since then, we've worked closely on a lot of things. also during my course, I did a lot of organized crime investigations against the Mexican mafia, uh, Asian Chinese mafia, and also the some of the Russian. So I have a pretty good background in checking out bad people. Um, a lot of similar behavior, as I've noticed in different government agencies in Georgia. It seems like there's an allowable, an acceptable level of bad acts that occur here that they occur everywhere. Unfortunately, they're tolerated here, which I find kind of shocking. Um, but this complaint I filed against Mr. Phillips is based upon Russ did some stories on it. He went to get his alcohol license, and he misrepresented the truth by failing by the omission of not adding his criminal arrests to the document, which become very important because in Georgia that's called false swearing, which are they're felonies. So that's where it started off. I was actually a couple of the neighbors told me what was going on, and they thought it was kind of strange that a person with an extensive criminal record was able to get an alcohol beverage license. So that started the journey in checking into Mr. Phillips and gathering documents. And as soon as we gathered the beginning documents, we asked for his business licenses and things like that. Somehow that information got directly to him. And that's when all the social media threats and harassment on his part started coming out. It's after he was notified. And the only person that could have notified him of that was somebody in the city. So it goes on is there had to have been cooperation as noted in my complaint that nobody double checked anything with him. There was one city clerk who allowed him to alter a public document, sign it twice, notarize it twice. A criminal history was required. It was done, but it was kept by another government official, never forwarded to the city council so they could actually see it when they voted to give him his license, which they did subsequently, gave him his license. Then he continued working, and there's a lot of other aspects that I can't talk about, but the great details are located in the complaint. There was a lot of omissions by city officials, and that's a matter of, I guess, interpretation on whether or not those were intentional or just plain incompetence. Either choice is not good on their part. So that led up to filing the RICO Act in the civil court violation because unfortunately here in Coweta County, Georgia, the district attorney Herb Cranford is not really into prosecuting government officials or police officers. It's kind of they have my opinion, it's a protection racket where they just help each other. So that's kind of a summary of what's going on with that.
Yeah, definitely getting exposed, and there's been a lot of stuff exposed with with Grantville. Tons of stuff has been exposed, and then this is what he's talking about here with this suit here. This suit can be found. It can be found actually in quite a few different places. The quickest way to find it, and it's public record. It's all public record. Would be on the GT News Now website. Here you can find this article here. Then if you scroll down towards the bottom of the article, the full complaint is excuse me. The full complaint is currently in there that you can look at, which is what you're looking at right now. The whole 22-page complaint that's been filed here. And then anything else you want to add onto this really quick before we move?
No, I can't talk, of course, in detail because it's still litigation, but the complaint has a lot of information in that if anybody had any questions about what the RICO violations are and the predicate acts. They're all stated in there.
Cool beans. So next, some stuff that popped up on the channel, on the comment section. It kind of is what it is, I guess, per se. With some comments made by Mr. Phillips, is that and some of y'all may have, I'm sorry, excuse me, some of y'all may have seen these already. I'm going to throw the comments up here. So pretty much this was from Mr. Phillips to me that everyone is welcome in Grantville. Everyone's welcome, just not liberal cameras. And that stood out to me because how is an inanimate object considered to be a political affiliation? Like is my car a liberal car because it's mine, or is my cell phone a liberal cell phone because it's my cell phone? That just stuck out to me. And then also another thing that really kind of, it's like, okay, so did Mr. Phillips go and recently get his degree into psychology? And I say that because he commented about some disabilities, and I said my disability extends for multiple deployments. I've been to Iraq and I've been to Afghanistan, so call who you got to call. And then again, back to the camera function. If you don't agree with with one holding a camera, then that camera is a liberal. Question mark. And then it goes more forward of no. It sounds like you're not disabled at all. So I guess the old great wonderful Mr. Phillips gets to make that decision. He wonders how most vets feel. He knows some vets with my disabilities. I don't think he knows exactly what all my disabilities are, but if he does, kudos to him. And then it just extends on from that. So it's like this dude, it just keeps commenting and keeps commenting and keeps commenting, and it's funny. It's actually very hilarious. And then my suit has been filed as well against former committee member Taylor Phillips in the Superior Court, and that case can be found on Odyssey if you use Odyssey, or if you use Peach Court, or whatever search you have. But it's also up. I believe I have it up on the website as well, that you can go download it and look at it. And good. Hey, what you cooking? Swine? So so also next, we're going to move into these high profile cases here that Mr. Royce has covered. I'm going to turn it over to him, whichever one he wants to start with first. Then I'll just kind of throw the picture up there, and then we'll go. There's 3 of them, so we'll go from. I guess we'll do one, and we'll just cover one, then move to the next one, and then if anybody has questions about it, feel free to chime in. I'll throw the comment up on the screen here, and if he can answer it, he'll answer it. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Royce and let him start rocking and rolling.
All righty. So what I have gigabytes and gigabytes on each one of these cases on my computer. So I should be able to answer most any question. But I'm going to start with Suge Knight, because he's probably the most popular one. How I got on that case was he had 2 private attorneys and a private investigator already on that, which he was paying for. During the course of that, there was indication that his attorneys were engaged in unprofessional and illegal conduct. So at that time, the judge, Cohen, at the Los Angeles Superior Court, was afraid that all the time that's gone by, they're going to lose it if they have to refile the case and remove the attorneys. So he assigned me to kind of shadow investigate what was going on. So I maintained my investigation as they were doing their thing. And subsequently, what he knew at the time that I didn't was the the DA's office. I could have been the FBI. They were monitoring the attorneys, and even in the attorney room, they were tape recording them. They were alleged to have, I believe they pled guilty to it, attempting to pay off witnesses on behalf of Suge Knight to make certain statements, which it turned out at the end of the day was pretty stupid because they didn't need anybody to make any crazy statements the way that the evidence unfolded. So that's how I got on. Then eventually they were removed, arrested, and the judge placed me as the permanent investigator along with the defense attorney, and we took it from there. During the course of this, which was kind of scary representing him, because I had known that they had tape recorded the attorney booth during this. And every time in LA County Jail, when they bring a high-profile inmate, they go into individual booths, and I think there was 15 or 20 of them. And you don't know which booth they're going in. So each time somebody comes out, they go in a different booth. So that means each individual booth was wired, and they were listening to them. So they could listen to any attorney-client conversation they wanted to, and nobody to this day would know. So that continued. I'm going to jump around a little bit here because there's just so much information. During the course of this, Suge Knight his biggest concern was his criminal threats. And that's when he had called the producer of Straight Outta Compton, and the producer recorded it, plus he had text messages where there were actually criminal threats. And that was going to strike Suge out and give him a life sentence. So that was actually the biggest obstacle in the case, was that. It wasn't the death of the individual at what they call Tam's Burger, which is in Compton. It was actually the less included, which was the criminal threats. Then you had a case going with I forget, Cat Williams. They had a robbery case in Beverly Hills, and that was kind of there, but it wasn't really of a concern. And then that brings us up to the actual death. Does anybody have any questions at this point, or did you want to jump in, Russ?
I don't. I'm listening to you. This is news to my ears as well. I haven't researched too much into these. I'm just interested in them.
Okay, so and remind me to bring up the shooting in Las Vegas too. It'll be interesting for people to hear that. So anyways, so I read all the discovery. It takes days upon days to read it all, and you can't investigate anything unless you've read everything, because there's so many different aspects you need to know about. So I went out there and I was meeting with a lot of these. They weren't direct witnesses. Some of them, they were just witnesses in general. And these are some bad dudes. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Compton, South Central Los Angeles, dealing with really bad people. But these were some bad dudes. You just sit there and get the vibe from them. It took time for them to talk to me. Several meetings with them. Finally, they started opening up about things, which led me to additional information, which that's usually what it is, investigation. You talk to somebody, they may not have anything relevant, but they can lead you to places. And I spoke with a few people. I can't name names because Suge's case is still, I think, in the appeals court. But they led me to people. I spoke with them, and now we get up to the death occurred at the Cam's Burgers. I think it was the Avalon and Compton Boulevard. So I tried to arrange a meeting with the three key witnesses, because everyone involved, they're on one side or the other. They're all gangsters. They're bad people. They've been to prison and jail. They lie, cheat, and steal. So nobody can really believe anything that they say. So speaking with these three witnesses, or just three regular, a wife, husband, and a teenage daughter, they're just driving down the street. They stop at a red light, about 6 cars back, and the whole incident occurred where the victim got ran over. And Suge was driving the vehicle. So there's no dispute about that. You have him driving a vehicle, and you have a dead body. And how did that get that way? So when you read the police reports, police, I'm sure some of you may understand, they tend to add their opinions and conclusions to the facts. So when you read the police report, it's confusing because some things that they state don't make sense. So in this particular case, they were saying how these witnesses saw through the windshield. Their side window into his windshield, and they saw him shifting gears and turning the steering wheel towards the victim. And that becomes, important because that's the intent to murder, looking at the victim, steering towards him. So I was able to interview the three people, and the cops left out a very important factor, is that the witnesses' side windows were rolled up and they had heavy tint. And this is at nighttime in the poorly lit neighborhood. So they admitted that, and they admitted they really didn't see much of anything. And they couldn't see him shifting gears. They couldn't see where his eyes were. Pretty much nothing. It kind of destroyed their case, which actually led up to what he ended up, that was a causation for the settlement he got of, I think it was 28 years. He would be out, and I believe it was 19 years. But he suffers from real bad medical condition, which I'd be surprised if he was able to survive that for that long. But that's kind of the gist of what happened. And I'll see if anybody has any questions on that.
Any questions on the Suge night? Anybody got any questions on the Suge night?
And that was just a synopsis. There's a lot more information involved. It gets really complex, but there's not enough time to go into all the detail. So yeah,
maybe write a book.
Yeah, he's Suge Knight is people don't understand how intelligent he is. He's an extremely intelligent person. He's educated. He got his degree at the University of Las Vegas, Nevada. He put this whole death row records together himself. He had a little bit of financial backing at the beginning. And then he had Dr. Dre, who was in business for a while with him, which
was Suge out on bail during the trial?
No, he was I forget what his I don't think he had a hold. I forget what his bail was, probably about $10 million or so. But see, Suge Knight, he didn't have any money left. And I thought it was funny because when I went in there and would see other clients in the LA County Jail in the attorney room, I'd go in there and talk to my other clients, and I had a pretty good reputation with all the defendants, even ones I didn't know, they knew me. And Suge, before he even got on his case, he would always, wave and talk to me, just chit chat, right? So I kind of had a rapport with him before it all started. But I would listen to these attorneys would come in. Everybody wanted to get on Suge Knight's case. The attorneys did, and he would come in and he would. I think there was 17. He would tell them if they did his case for him for free, he would sign over the rights to a book deal. And he did that with like 17 attorneys. I would just laugh because they're so greedy. They would be gullible, and they would all sign the deal with him. And he would get some representation here or there. And the two attorneys that end up getting prosecuted, to this day, I have no idea what the financial agreement was, but I know that because I heard the recordings that were made, the financial, and I know that Suge did not have the money to pay what those attorneys were offering the witnesses to say. So the whole thing was kind of ridiculous. Those attorneys, they should have known there's no money there, but that's just what they are. One ended up in federal prison. He was actually, unbelievably, he was a crackhead. Well, he was an attorney, but he was getting clients, and he was using their client trust account or something like that, committing frauds and tax fraud. But I believe he's still in federal prison. And the other attorney, he just got probation. I think he got his license taken away. Now, here's the thing that I heard directly from the horse's mouth. I asked him about Tupac, and I'll tell you, the Tupac shooter is dead. I could confirm that. But what happened that day when the actual shooting occurred is Suge thinks the intent was to kill him. He says they're driving down the street, and when they approached the red light, they saw the car behind them, but another car moved over from the left turn lane to the number one lane and blocked the car following them from entering the number one lane. So the vehicle following, which turned out to be the shooter vehicle, pulled in the passenger side, and that's where they opened fire, towards Suge, but hit Tupac. So the intent was to kill Suge, actually, and not Tupac.
That's interesting.
And that's, like I said, that came right from the horse's mouth. But there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of this, a lot of that about that, and most of what is said in public is false. It's not backed up by any of the discovery, any of the evidence, any statements. Most of that stuff is it's just people, running at the mouth.
Any other questions on the Suge Knight case? If not, we can move on to the next one. I think these you can talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, I can talk more about these because both these individuals are deceased. Let's see which one. Let's go with Bobby Maxwell, is known as the Skid Row Stabber, and he was accused of killing at least 11 people. There's probably more, but they couldn't prosecute him. Now, this one's interesting because his killing spree started when I was still in high school, and I'm not a young guy. So he went on for several years killing. He at one point was caught. I believe it was like 1984. He was caught. He was sentenced to 2 years. That got turned around on appeal. They subsequently charged him with 9 others, and he was fighting that. And then subsequently, it was kind of strange how it ended, but he ended up dying before the case was completed and fully litigated. The problem with his case, there was another serial murder at the same time, a guy named Chester Turner, and he was killing women down in South Central Los Angeles. Not all prostitutes, but a lot of them were prostitutes. And both their DNAs were found on some of the victims, which is really bizarre because there's absolutely no connection between the two people. They both deny knowing each other, and there's no, other than they maybe crossed the same prostitutes at the same time or within days of each other. Could be a coincidence. And Chester Turner's on death row in California for killing 14 women over there. But, yeah, Bobby Maxwell. And the strangest thing that I felt they did, I think the police did a pretty good job on that particular case. But we learned at the end, this is probably in I'm trying to think, when was this? This is 2017, I think. It took that long that the prosecutor admitted one of the main witnesses was his uncle, was the prosecutor's uncle. in the case. So that kind of threw a wrench into everything. So it's the dishonesty and ethics are really violated all over the country by prosecutors frequently. Not all, but a lot. There's any questions on that?
Any Skid Row murder questions?
Yeah, it's a really interesting case. I don't think this one has been uh, glorified, I guess, or put on TV or movies made like the other one. Uh, it's and these serial murder cases. A lot of people are interested is how does someone represent someone or investigate someone who's like going back to the Grim Sleeper. We'll get to next. They suspected him of 47 murders. The information is just overwhelming. So what you do is you have to basically investigate one case at a time, look for the common factors, and then put it all together at the end. It's almost impossible to do it as a group. You have to do it all individual cases. But people would be surprised. We used to call it when I first started. It was called the teletype. It's the same verbiage now, but it's done on computer. What goes on around this country, and you read about all these homicides that occur. There are a lot of serial killers in this country that you never hear about. There's a pattern of what's going on. There's a lot, and they all, primarily focus on women and mostly prostitutes, which causes a big problem. But it's kind of scary just to think how many are out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the Skid Row stabber, Skid Row killer? And then this just hit. I did not know this. Carolina Fort Worth's in jail. Is it a new arrest, or is it something she was sentenced on from the crew? Because I see the Kruger name in there a lot. So I see that coming in. Was this that incident she had with Kruger, with the with Officer Kruger there? I hope he shouldn't be an officer anymore. But, just keep filling me in on that, and yeah, we can move on to okay.
So the next one is Lonnie Franklin.
The Grim Sleeper, right?
The Grim Sleeper.
Sorry, my phone just started like blowing up with something out of Meriwether County, which I'll look at that in a minute once we get done. Okay, so yeah, the Grim Sleeper.
The Grim Sleeper, besides Suge Knight, has been really exposed. There's been several movies made of it. I think there's probably been close to 8 or 9 different movies. And I've only watched one of them, and it was kind of okay, but they missed, of course, a lot of details and things like that. The sad thing about the Grim Sleeper, besides the victims being murdered, was the police could have stopped this. I think it was the third murder in. It could have been stopped, but they got lazy and they didn't do their work, and I'll explain that in a minute. So at one point, the Grim Sleeper, Lonnie, he too preyed on single females, and many of which were prostitutes in the South Central Los Angeles area. And he picked up this one woman, Miss Williams, and he shot her, threw her out of the car, and he thought she was dead. She wasn't dead. She survived. So after she got better, she took the police on the drive, and they said, "Where did you go?" She said, "I went to this house, took him to 88th Street in South LA, took to a house. This is a house we stopped at. He ran in, He was in there for a few minutes and he came back out and departed. Shortly after that, he exposed a gun and shot her. So what they did is they went to that house and they go, well, we know nothing about this guy or anything, right? Well, and they stopped at that. They stopped. If they would have went down the street about 6 or 7 houses, she just got confused which house it was. He lived 6 or 7 houses down from that house, and that's the house they stopped at. If they would have did a further investigation like they're supposed to do, they would have discovered that. But they didn't, and which led to the murders to continue. Now, the other interesting thing that a lot of people don't understand or they don't know is we had a forensic video expert on the case, and he had to go through all these videos that at the time the killer took during the murders of these women. He videotaped them. So he's going through all these, and all of a sudden he got, I don't know which one it was, 40 or 50 or 60 videos into it. Grim Sleeper dropped the camera. Now the police didn't look at all these videos, or they would have this evidence. He drops the camera and he picks it up. The camera's pointed right at his face. And it obviously it's evidence he did what they claim he did, but they never looked at all the evidence, so they never saw that. That could have saved the state a lot of money, actually. The other interesting thing is when I was doing the background on the surviving victim, in-depth background, I found that in her credit header, we can't get the actual credit information, but we can get the credit header and the address history. If you went back during the time when her abduction and shooting occurred, there was a entry of an address that stuck out in my mind. I go, I've seen that address before. So I double check it, and it's actually the Grim Sleeper's home address in her credit report. Well, the reason that occurred is I don't want to mention names because this person's still alive. There was another family member who was suspected of identity theft. And that is probably how that got on his credit report. Because they did subsequently in a search warrant find a bunch of different IDs in the walls of his garage. And that's kind of an interesting fact that the police at the time, they never looked into, or they would have had that evidence connecting him. And a lot of his victims were staged. They were thrown into these big industrial trash bins, which is very hard for one person. And the Grim Sleeper wasn't a big guy. He was 5'8", maybe 150 pounds. For him to lift up some of these women and place them in these trash bins, my younger days, I was big and strong, and I couldn't do it. So we suspect he had help, and we pretty much, through our investigation, figured out who was helping him physically. I think he was getting help otherwise too, but physically he was helping him. It was one of his neighbors. But we're at the time when you're defending somebody, you're not in a position to prosecute people. So when you find that information, you just have to give it to the attorney, and you just have to sit on it. And that's the attorney's choice what he wants to do with it. But that person, to my knowledge, has never been arrested or prosecuted to date on that. But he's a lot of these serial killers and these people who do these crimes, they have a big attraction to a lot of females will go and visit them and talk to them. And most of the females are very attractive ladies. And there's something, obviously, that's not right about that, but it's a free world and they can visit whoever they want, I guess. So that's kind of the summary of his particular case. Well, let me add another thing. Is what actually caught him was his son. His son was arrested And during the course of his arrest, they took DNA. And this is the first case familia DNA was used at in the United States for an arrest and prosecution. They arrested his son. They put his son in the DNA bank. They cross-referenced, etc., did some research, and they came back to Lonnie Franklin, Grim Sleeper. So what they did is they did a surveillance on him. They followed him down to a pizza restaurant. One of the officers pretended to be the waiter, served him, did that. They were able to mark his cup that he used and his fork and knife. As soon as they left, they picked that stuff up. They did a DNA analysis on it, and they got his DNA, and that's how they connected him to these ladies. He was even a mechanic for the police department for many years and other jobs for the city, and he never had his DNA taken. They never knew who he was. Does anybody have any questions about that one?
Questions on the Grim Sleeper.
Well, somebody went to Belmont High School in East LA.
Yeah, there's a couple. I think Katie Kidman said that out of Belmont High School, East LA. Somebody said Garfield High School too.
Garfield, oh yeah, Garfield.
Garfield High School. I don't know where. I've only been to California twice, and it wasn't for sightseeing or anything. It wasn't for vacation. It was actually at Fort Irwin in the Mojave Desert out there.
Now, is Belmont High School the one that's in downtown off of 1st and 2nd Street, or is that the one in over there by Cesar Chavez Boulevard?
That I'm not.
I know. I think they tore one down and they built this $1 billion Belmont High School that they couldn't open up for like 10 years because of something ground contamination or something. Then they finally opened it up. It's crazy. It's like all these cities. You know, I don't care if it's Grantville or Los Angeles. You got the same types of people doing the same bad acts at different levels. You know, I can honestly say though, in California, there's a lot of bad actors and politicians and stuff, but they will be investigated. I mean, there's no dispute. They will get investigated. Here, you know, a citizen by law, people don't know in Georgia, you cannot report a crime to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. The law says that you cannot report to them, period. So when you have a district attorney like the one in Coweta County who's more interested in protecting his friends than administering justice, you can't go anywhere because you can't go to the GBI. The law says you can't. So you're kind of stuck. And exposing these people is the only remedy you have. And that's why I've been exposing and I've been helping Russ as much as I can to expose these politicians and employees as much as possible. Because without that, they're going to continue victimizing a lot of the citizens around here. Because many of the citizens in these rural communities don't want to demean them, but the education opportunities here is limited. The level of education is kind of limited. The quality is limited. And then the lack of sophistication is definitely limited. So they can be snowball, told some stories, and which sound good by these fast-talking politicians, and they believe them. And they're getting hurt by it. You know, these people that are being manipulated, they're the victims of what a lot of these politicians are doing in a lot of these rural areas.
Yeah, and it's back to there was a troll in here. It was, I think there was like 2 or 3 of them. Trying to find, going back up through the comments here, trying to find it, talking about Carolina, Fort Worth, and let's just say that in general for anybody is maybe it's not the person or and I'm really trying to figure out the big picture on this. Like, for example, all the comments that Red has made to me and what he has said in court about he doesn't understand how a man can go film government and ask him questions and stuff. Okay, well, is it because I'm not asking questions you want me to? Or what is it? Like, what is the breakdown? Is because you don't like someone, you don't personally like them, and whatever they say is completely wrong, or it just everyone should question the government. I think everyone should ask questions, and also asking questions and questioning your government does not make you a sovereign citizen. You're not a sovereign citizen because you question your government. You have a right to and a civic duty to question your government.
And that's very important for people to understand. It's your civic duty. You must question things. If you don't question things, you allow these people, the snowball gets bigger and bigger, and they continue with their tyrannical behavior because no one is stopping it. And if you exposure is the biggest thing that they fear. And Mayor Proctor in Grantville, exposure is the biggest thing he fears. He doesn't fear the DA because he knows nothing's going to happen. He doesn't fear law enforcement. He fears exposure, and that's the only way really a citizen can fight these people is by exposing them. And either they stop doing their bad behavior and get in line and follow the rules, policies, and laws, or hopefully they get voted out.
Yeah, and you got to pay attention. You got to really pay attention who you're voting for, or don't vote, or flip a coin. I don't know. You need to pay attention to who you're putting into these seats because, and I know we're going back to Grantville. It's just to my opinion, it's just so bad there. The taxes have been raised 3 times. What in the heck is Grantville spending so much money on that this current mayor has had to raise taxes 3 times over the last almost 2 years?
And I think Grantville is it's a good example. I know some people probably get tired of Grantville this, Grantville that, but it is a perfect example of really all aspects of what we talk about here. And it's easier to control because there's only a handful of players, and they do the same thing that politicians in New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago do. There's no different. It's just it's easier to see here. It's easier to talk about because there's only a handful of people. And hopefully those who listen look at that and they apply the same concepts to their town and go, this stuff is happening. As my council member, do they have a nonprofit organization or LLC that they're running? Are they getting donations in their nonprofit from people they're doing business with the city? Because that's laundering money and it's highly illegal, but that's one of the most common ways, that money's exchanged. They used to have the envelope in the mailbox during the middle of the night, but that's not used as much as more sophisticated ways, computer transfers and things like that.
Yeah, and it's just the level of stupidity with the Grantville public officials that's going on. Taxes better mean world-class schools or hospitals. And I'm glad you said that, Samantha, because, what is it? I don't know. I can't speak for every other county or every other, specific part of the U.S., but, here in this area, schools, eat up about 70% of the people's tax money. It's like a big majority of, your property taxes and just taxes in general going to the school board. And I visited a school board it was in the North Georgia area. I forgot which one it was. I can't remember right offhand. And they just built this new Board of Education building, and it was a new building they had just had built. But going in there, you would think it's the palace in Agrabah, that cartoon Aladdin, that palace that had they had marble floors, marble pillars. It's like, do you really need all of this when the schools are suffering to begin with? You can barely pay the teachers, and then also the schools in majority of the schools I've seen in Georgia, and I mean, I don't know, I haven't been, actually up to the doors and stuff like that, but from what I hear, from what people tells me, is that they're open. They're wide open. Anybody can just walk right into an elementary school or a middle school, whereas the school boards themselves, they're locked up like Fort Knox. They're protecting themselves there. Well, why isn't if you're scared to work in the public, for the people, then seek a job in the private sector. Is and I don't understand. I just don't.
You mentioned something too, is the money that's spent on some of these public buildings. Now, I used to testify frequently in federal court in Los Angeles. If you go into this massive building, the walls and ground is all marble. It's beautiful. They have one bench. You have like 8 courtrooms on one floor, and they have one small bench for all witnesses and everybody to sit on. It's ridiculous. But the money that's spent, it's like, why do they need all this marble? This kind of funds can go to help people. And, just, you know, regular walls would do. Trust me, people that go there aren't going there to observe the beauty of the building. They're going to take care of business and get out.
Exactly, and that's all it should be for. That's all you need it for is to just somewhere to go to work and do your business, and then I'm all for raising, not raising taxes, but cutting out certain positions or cutting out trimming the fat off of this, and then raise police officer salary. Give them a massive pay increase to where it would be an honor, a privilege to be in law enforcement because now you can pay that salary and you actually can select the cream of the crop. You can actually have an actual selection to where it's hard to get into it. And then once you mess up, that's it. You're done. No more. No more of this stuff. Give them a very, very good premium salary, but really select who you put in there. I'd be all for that. I'd be all for paying for giving the law enforcement a big, huge increase, but not just taking somebody that's got a low IQ, handing them a badge and a gun, and telling them to go patrol the streets.
Yeah, a lot of those guys, they're the ones that are causing the majority of problems for police forces. Where I worked, it was preferred to get hired with a degree, and they would also pay if you want to get your bachelor's or master's. They would pay the tuition, pay for your books, and after you did obtain your degree, it was $450 a month on top of your base pay. They would pay you, which also get calculated into your retirement. So there's a lot of incentives. It was very competitive where I worked for all positions. If you had a GED, you're not gonna work there. You're not gonna get hired. You can't compete. Probably couldn't pass the written test. So
Yeah,
yeah, education is a correlation of education and a lack thereof with bad police behavior.
yeah. I can speak for, I guess, Troop County Schools. Is it where I live? Someone lived here a while back in this area that I talked to. Our dogs played together every now and again, but she was a teacher. She left. She left Troop County and went home somewhere back up north. But anyway, she lived just in this area here, and and me and her were talking. And you see, that's what I'm talking about. This right here, and I'll get to that in just a second. This is what I'm talking about. But anyways, back to the school thing is that she said that, and she taught high school, one of the high schools here, and that she was very surprised of the number of children that couldn't read, that actually did not know how to read or form a paper or just basic English, basic math, is that it got caught into that whole no student left behind thing that just promote them. And then, but now look what we're getting today as part of the public education system. I mean, well, me and Red's about the same age. Now he's the product of the public education system. So am I. I mean, I went to public school, but it's you get like an intelligent person will learn more from a fool than a fool from an intelligent person. So I learned stuff. I've actually learned a lot of stuff from Red. I've learned from Red. I have learned from him, and I've taken what I've learned from him, and I do apply some of the stuff. I have actually learned from that man. And then public employees don't bow down to auditors. Okay, it sounds like you have a problem with people auditing the government. okay, if you don't like it, then get into legislation, pass laws, and change the Constitution to where the people can't question the government. Anybody can question the government. Anybody can call themselves a First Amendment auditor. Anybody can go to city council meetings and talk. If you don't like it, then you just don't like it. Tough. Tough. It sucks. Sucks to be you. And I don't think public employees bow down to auditors either. I agree with us on this. We don't bow down to the government, and the government doesn't bow down to us. We tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us what to do. It doesn't have anything to do about bowing down. It's a respect sort of thing that we control what happens. Y'all are employees of making sure our tax money gets handled accordingly, and then you run our government.
If I can jump in, Russ, I don't agree with everything all auditors do. I disagree. I disagree with actually quite a bit what some auditors do. But it's like any profession, whether the police, teachers, firemen, doctors. There's that 20% that are just going to give everybody a black eye, and the auditor field is the same way. I see auditors that'll run up on a car stop and start MFing the cops. It's kind of like, what is that? That really accomplishes nothing, you know. But like me, I personally, I don't have the personality to audit. What I can do, and I have done for last 3 years since moving to Grantville, is I know how to research. I know how to find things. I know how to find people, how to find documents, how to find issues, how to address issues. So I do that in the background, and I mostly give all my information away. Everything I've given to Russ, I've been given. I don't, a lot of the others, I don't charge anybody anything. I just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and then that's another thing too. Like with mainstream media, and then I noticed local media. Mainstream media is free to watch on television. I get that, but I noticed that local media, the old newspapers, print and press newspapers, and now they've moved to online. Is that you have to pay an annual or some type of subscription fee to access the content or to access what they want to report on. And that's something I want to stay away from, is that every bit of money that comes into this comes right back into this, because I want to keep it free. I want to keep it free of charge. When you go to gtnewsnow.com and granted, I need to post more articles more frequently. I get that. I'm very, very, very busy. I understand that. But I don't want I don't want anybody to have to worry about, if something's happening in this area, I know Russell's going to cover it. So if I go there and read the article, I ain't got to worry about having to pay for it. It doesn't matter, if you're wealthy or, if you're not wealthy. It doesn't matter. And just want to make it free for everybody. This is the information that I've gathered. This is this content. This is the stuff that's been researched. Here's the information. Here it is.
And one person, Russ, brings up a good point about learning a little bit more about auditing. You and I have actually talked about doing a couple seminars so people can attend from your perspective as, going out in the field and doing it, and mine from all the research that I know how to do and sharing that information with people. And I think, I'm biased because I think the research is the most important part of it. But that's my point of view because that's what I do. So sharing that information with people and how they can do the same things that we can do and do it right and expose the information that needs to be exposed.
Here's the biggest thing that I've learned, and I've watched other channels that do the same sort of thing, is that police, government, public officials, they're human just like us. We put our pants on the same way. And if you're really going to lose control because I have a camera photographing you performing your job, That's a big problem. I just, I think it, I just think it's a big. Hey, no worries, brother. We're actually getting ready to wrap up here in a minute. You can go back and watch it. It's just a big problem. Um, and I feel that I've met some really great, public officials, and I've met some pretty good law enforcement, from what I've seen. And and I've met what looks to be some really bad ones is that they don't want you in their area. And so it's comes down to just be respectful, be respectful to your, and until that line's crossed and you don't, and you don't need to be respectful, and then they take your kindness for weakness. Don't let the police or public officials take your kindness for weakness. Be assertive. And if you feel they're violating your rights, break your phone out and start recording that. Start recording that stuff. Let them violate you all day long. If you feel that's what they're doing, record them and freaking expose them. Missouri City postal worker just unalived by a coworker. Oh wow. Oh, well, that must have just happened.
But yet, if being prepared, if you're a auditor that goes out in the community, is just be prepared on local laws, city ordinances, what you can and can't do. Do not give an officer the opportunity to arrest you or make some kind of enforcement action. Understand what your rights are, and be prepared. Don't be bullied around, because some of them will do that, as you guys seen on these channels.
And the last thing I'll say is this: is that for the auditing community, if you notice this, the auditing community will post their videos or their court encounters, whether they're innocent or guilty. If they're found guilty and they have to do jail time, they still post that. They do. They post that. It goes up. They put it up that they went to court and was found guilty, and they have to do X, Y, and Z. And then you have the other channel, the anti-auditor channels that cover this and completely throw it out there. And, XYZ ABC was charged with this. He shouldn't have been filming that government facility. Now he's got to do X amount of days in jail with this community service. And, oh, it's such a big deal. Now, there's one thing that these anti-auditor channels don't cover. There's one thing. Go look. I've looked for it. I couldn't find it. When these police mess up and get tied into a big federal lawsuit with a big settlement or a big win because the police messed up by attacking the person with a camera, you don't see them cover that. You don't see them cover both ways. At least the auditing community, they'll throw it out there. I got arrested. This happened. And I'm going to jail for XYZ, X amount of days. They covers it from both angles, from both sides. You don't see the anti-auditing channel covering. Oh, shoot. Hey, we got Chris in the house. Chris, the only thing I want to say, why isn't Robert Royce on video? Is it because he doesn't resemble the photo? Lastly, who wants to bet Russell will never again insult my wife in person again? Oh, snap. That sounds like a threat. Hey, I do want to know that. I would love to know that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, take a snapshot of that. Insult your wife. What did I say to insult your wife? I don't think I've insulted her. I think I asked her that time if she beat you up 2 times, because there was records of that, and there are records of that. I have records of that. And I don't think that's a personal insult. So then I guess it's a personal insult to Red if he doesn't agree with you. He's got to agree with you before if not, it's harassing and everything. I'm really curious. Lastly, who wants to bet Russell will never again insult my wife in person again? I don't want to insult your wife, dude. I don't want to insult her. I don't feel that I've ever insulted her. I mean, I don't. There's no reason to want to insult her. Y'all's actions are y'all's actions. We're all responsible for our own actions. So. he's up. He came in late, but he got in here. I wonder what he was doing. skewed a little bit. Threat. I don't know. I'm curious to know why. Is it because what was said at court? Um, the admission that Mrs. Phillips made?
Well, Russ, I was in court that day with you, and
Yeah, sure. You sat there the whole time in the
I
back.
sat there in the very back, across the aisle from the deputy, and I listened to that whole thing, and I was actually very surprised that the judge did not place Mr. Phillips into custody for a terroristic threat, or I'm sorry, his wife who made that threat, because that was a straight threat of violence, of retaliation was violence if the judge doesn't do X, Y, Z. Um, so that's I was very surprised. It was a lucky day for the Phillips.
Yeah, that seemed very indirect. Of what am I going to do when my husband hurts him and he goes to prison? And, well, it looks like Red done took off again. He's not commenting anymore.
Damn.
Yeah. So that's a good. So why is it? Well, I don't know, Red.
I do look different. I do look different. I shaved all my hair off. Um, yeah, I'm still an ugly sob. Maybe I got a little bit more gray hair, but that's the picture that I had to throw on there real quick.
So I mean, this statement here. So the last question. Lastly, who wants to bet Russell will never insult my wife in person again? I mean, what, dude? Are you going to beat me up? Are you going to try to unalive me? Like what? Like what, dude? Like what? Like what do anything you don't like is considered an insult, dude? Like, you might not like the way I would tell your spouse good afternoon, how are you doing today? If you took that as an insult because you didn't like it, I mean, what? I don't get this guy. He is way out in left field.
I just hope he doesn't sue me for putting up a photograph of myself that's about 6 years old.
I don't know about policy. I don't care. Whatever he say, whatever he ready to say, whatever he wants.
Yeah.
It looks like he left again. He just came on, threw that comment up, and took off. So that's awesome.
Yeah, he watched.
Because he does not resemble his photo. I mean, I have photos and I don't resemble myself in photos. Hold on, I'll show you one right now, really quick. Oh yeah, Red, dude. Hey, real quick before we get off here, if you're listening, man, hey, what disabilities do you think I don't have? Like, what's your end state for that? Oh, hold on. He's still, yeah. Like, what's your thing for my disabilities? Hold on one second. I don't think I have them on this drive. Dang, I don't think I do. Shoot, no, I don't. I'll show them on the next live stream. I have to get them probably off my other drive. Yeah, Red, smash that like for you. Yeah, make sure you smash that thumbs up and hit that notification bell. And like seriously, like, can you tell, like, Red, dude, can you tell me what I did to insult your wife? Like, what happened that insulted her? Like, it's serious. Like, what happened to insult her? Like,
hey, Russ, I think a good idea. Maybe invite Red on for an hour talk, and that way he gets a fair representation from his side and his point of view of everything.
yes, I would do. Yes, most definitely. We could definitely set that up, and I won't cut it off. I won't remove him. I won't take him off the stream or anything or nothing. Well, I mean, I will if you start doing certain things. Yes, if you try to, show a bunch of pornography or something, then yeah, I'm going to remove you. And so, yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah, I'm more than happy to bring him up on a live stream and let him tell his side. Uninterrupted.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
Yeah, dude, like uninterrupted. And so that way you can get your point across. Like tell your side. Tell your side, dude.
Well, here's an idea, Russ. Do 30 minutes with Red and 30 minutes with Taylor. They could tell their side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it sounds like a lot of people would love to hear it. I am not opposed to that. And what S just said, we take out the negative stuff or something bad against us. I'm sure Red's probably got a lot of negative or bad stuff to say about me. I'll let him up on his channel to say it. He can do it. I would yes, I would. I would bring him up on the channel if he wants to come up here. It's his choice, though. I can't make him do it. It'll be his choice. It'll be totally up to him if he wants to do it. But the offer's out there. The option's open. It's all for you if you want to. It sounds like some other people would want to hear from you. And Miss Katie Goodman believes that sounds fair. I think it sounds fair. Like you will have uninterrupted. And you know what? I would even do something like this. I would remove myself and let you have the floor. Like it'll just be you up there talking. No interruptions, no break. But you ain't gonna get up there and talk for hours. You're gonna have a time limit to get through what you got to get through. But it is what it is. So we're coming up on an hour and 16 minutes. Let's thank Mr. Royce for being online with us today. And we want to, any last things you want to leave everybody with?
No, just keep exposing the government. It's the only way we can prevent our country from going into any type of dictatorship or any kind of, communist kind of a thing. Like, sometimes it feels like it's heading that direction. You got to expose these people. Don't let them get drunk on authority.
I guess this is a picture he was talking about.
Yeah, I have a little bit more gray hair. What I didn't cut off. Other than that, I don't know. I think I still look like that, don't you, Russ?
Yeah.
Without the hair?
Yeah, maybe some more gray hair.
Yeah, gray. Oh, I got a goatee now, and it's gray.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'll let mine grow out and then I'll shave it. It'll grow out and then I'll shave it. Just keep doing that sort of thing. Hey, thanks everyone. Again, two last things right quick. I'm working to get us an attorney up here to talk about certain things, maybe hit one or two different sort of case laws, as well as to maybe answer any First Amendment or any type of civil rights questions that anyone may have in the future. And then also I'm working to put together the template for certain things that if you want to, file in court, what worked for me. I can't say it'll work for you, but this worked for me. Actually, yes. Is that Michael Kaiser's court date? I think Kaiser's got a court date coming up. Somebody emailed me about that. I'm going to try to get out. I think it's Etowah County. I'm going to try to get out to his court date and sit in and take some pictures. Not take pictures, but sit in with a notepad and take some notes. But take some pictures definitely outside of the courtroom. And stay pesky, friends. Like, share, support. I appreciate it. Most definitely. Much love to everybody. Let's thank Mr. Royce for being on. And
all right, Russ, thank you for having me.
All right, no worries. I'll give you a call in a few minutes. Take care. Much love, everybody. And I'm trying to figure out how to turn this stuff off. That way we can go into the outro and everybody can enjoy the rest of their happy Thursday. Oh, where's that? Oh, no.